This is Coffee with the Summerland Kids, and the weather in Summerland it's probably
Sunny and warm,
nice.
I hope.
It's probably okay. It's probably like I'm guessing 69 degrees if they're lucky. It's the time of they're approaching the June gloomish time when the fog in Summerland is a situation. So it makes you have to go over the hill to Paradise Road or San Ynez and try to find the sun on the other side of the mountain. So,
That's real interesting because in Morro Bay, it's always foggy. And then right
wow.
around the corner in Avila Beach, it's like always sunny.
Oh, nice. That's
Like, so
awesome.
if you like the sunny beach, you be in Avila. If you like, the fog and
Right.
fishing and everything, then that's the Morro Bay Beach.
Yeah, it's amazing up there. I mean, the California coast is it's such a treasure trove of gorgeousness. Bottom line, it's just beautiful. The whole coast. And we
No,
especially had it.
it was funny. I met a guy that's helping me out with the truck a little bit and doing some work around here. And he's like, "Whoa, your number's 805." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's where I'm from, the Central Coast." He's like, "Wow, I'm from Ventura."
Oh, nice.
So it's a small world, and that coast from basically Ventura up to Santa Cruz, you go through Big Sur.
Yeah.
You got the
Wow.
soft white sands of Pismo Beach. You got the Santa Barbara beaches. It's just
I
primo land.
know. Right. And I think they might be tearing out those old oil derricks. I think they're kind of phasing out of those things, man. I'm not 100% sure, but I thought I heard something about that. So
Um, I know that there was a little movement back when we were kids. There was like, stop the oil wells, and
yeah,
then at one time there seemed to be a lot more than there are now.
yeah, exactly. And when I for a bit when I worked in Carpinteria, I worked right by the Jelly Bowl they call it, and there's a pier down there that the boats come in and they take the workers out right off that pier in Carpinteria.
Okay, yeah.
So that's their little like launch pad, and they had a business called Clean Seas that was like a little emergency response crew that could go out there and help those guys if necessary, straight off Carpinteria.
Yeah,
So
that's a tough job. A friend of mine got their underwater welding certification and
wow,
spent a lot of time there in Santa Barbara working the oil underneath the water with a
yeah,
welder.
that's intense, man. Those guys are a different breed. They're just like they're tough. They're like roughnecks, man. Those guys are the real deal. Well, welders are pretty. They're a unique breed. Kind of like carpenters or something.
Yeah, I've done a little bit of welding. One of my first jobs out of high school was in a metal shop, and so I tinkered around with some machinery.
That's
And I
cool.
just recently bought me a little Lincoln stick welder. Got
Oh
it for
wow.
$50. That was kind of pretty cool.
Yeah, that's cool. Just gotta get some good helmet or good goggles or whatever. Now they have those ones that automatically sense the spark when you hit the trigger, so it triggers the lens. You know.
Yeah. Well, welding's an art form,
Oh,
Jericho.
for sure.
My friend is a welder, and he did a lot of the ornamental art for like the
Nice.
fence posts and stuff before he got his big union job.
Cool.
But
That's
yeah,
awesome.
I mean, I like that our show is art, and I'm artsy and you're artsy, but we don't
Yeah,
really get
creative.
credit for the carpenters and welders and machinists and the
Exactly.
artists in that form.
For sure.
I know
Yeah. No.
body work is.
Yeah. I
Sorry, I'm a
spend a
little
lot of time
slow
just
this
like I
morning.
feel.
I got woke up, or I went to sleep. I took a nap, got up at midnight, so I'm gonna drink some of my double shot espresso thunder.
Oh, sweet. That's awesome.
See if that wakes me up.
Yeah, get that going on, man. Hell yeah. So I'm excited for my trip. To California. I've been up here since 2020 in Colorado, and I did go back in 2022. Let's see, wait. Anyways, it's all been a blur, man. But I had a couple friends pass away in LA. So old Terry and Emmerich, both passed away at different times, but I went back for their memorial type services and stuff, and that was really cool to reconnect with everybody. And then I had approached by my friend Nathan Cartwright at the Hive Gallery when I was there, and I got asked to do a show. So I actually went out there at one time and produced the show. I created all the art from scratch and brought it all to the gallery. Literally walked it blocks, to the because my friend's studio is downtown LA, Yuri Elvin, and cheers to Yuri. He's been a great buddy. He's actually a Summerland guy from way back, and so he let me produce in his studio all the work, and I created a piece where I created a wall to go on the wall. I literally made like bricks out of foam core and glued the bricks to this panel, and then I built a couple chandeliers, and so it's sort of like a backdrop vibey thing, and so that was cool. It was good to reconnect with everybody when I was there, and so I'm looking forward to reconnecting with my friends that are there, and probably going to go when I arrive in LA at 8 in the morning. I'll be able to do breakfast with some folks that are early risers. You can kind of tell either they're the ones that stayed up all night and they're still up and going to breakfast, or they're the normal sleeping folks that wake up early and get their stuff done, and they'll be able to come to breakfast. So we'll see about that.
Yeah, it's very interesting because I've always been a morning.
Yeah.
Even if I stay up, like last night, I got up at 11, stayed up till 4, but
Wow.
here it is 7:30, and I'm like, okay, time. I just automatically wake up. I did a small little study. I'm kind of interested in the esoteric or psychological, mental, spiritual side of things. And I was reading this study where, people who are night owls tend to have been born at night.
Oh,
And
wow.
people that are early birds, like maybe you and me, I know I was born at about 7 o'clock in the morning. So
okay.
it's always
Interesting.
kind of been my natural wake up time. And I just thought it kind of very interesting that the time of birth has a lot to do whether you're a day person or a night person.
Wow. Yeah. I think for some reason, I think it might have been 1 in the morning, but I can't remember. And I did transfer to a night person situation for a bit in Los Angeles. And that was interesting. I mean, I got to stay up on the weekends, stayed up all night on weekends to work. So that was like, it was an experience, but it gave me the rest of my time. Once I caught up on sleep, I had the rest of my week free. So essentially I worked weekends and had the weeks off. So that was great. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, that's nice. Some long shifts probably on the weekends. You're saying you worked overnight.
Yeah.
I've known this before, and it does. It takes a little bit. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm still getting used to.
Yeah, no, you kind of
sleeping this morning at 4 in the morning, Dirk. I'm looking up at the clock. I'm like, oh gosh, I better get to sleep. But I had slept from about 4 in the afternoon till 11 at night.
Wow, yeah. So you got some rest.
I got enough sleep.
Needed it,
The heat of the afternoon just saps all energy out of me. It's horrible.
Oh yeah, it's hot up there, man. I mean, it's no joke. I mean, are you guys comparable to Sacramento in terms of heat goes? Would you say Sac is like right on your level, or is it below you guys? Or
Sac is right about on our level.
Is it?
I think Sac might get a little bit less wind because we're kind of up against the mountains.
Okay.
But we definitely get, there's weeks straight of above 100.
Yeah.
Not 2 weeks in a row sometimes. There's definitely heat warnings, and you got to have AC or at least a good swamp cooler.
Yeah.
Huh. And if you're in your car out there and you don't have AC, it is miserable.
Oh, I can imagine. Yeah, that's a big deal. Is that little Subaru you got, does it have air conditioning?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, good. That's cool.
I learned at a young age in California, you got to have air conditioning in the summer or you're just miserable.
Yeah. And even in Santa Barbara, some people, or in Thousand Oaks, what do they call it? Southern California, people have clicked over to having AC in their homes in some cases because I guess it helps the home value goes up a little bit if you have an air conditioning system. So
Absolutely. I mean,
yeah,
just if it's not, so much a monetary value, it's definitely a comfort value.
comfort, yeah, which is huge. And now with everyone working from home, it's like you got your space is everything. I think everyone realized that during COVID. What's up with our personal space, because they found themselves in their personal space more than they've ever been in their life in some cases. So
Yeah, I mean, I've taken time off in my life to kind of withdraw into the mountains or withdraw into the solace of my home, and
yeah,
it's almost like the whole nation, if not the whole world, got to experience that for better or for worse.
right. No, for sure. Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, I was just like, I mean, I guess I just sort of made that snap decision when that stuff was happening in early 2020, to come out to Colorado, because I knew mom's cabin was a safe space, and Colorado, and just being with the parents and all that, and mom was getting up in age, and living off the grid and trucking water and all that kind of stuff, because we have a cistern that holds the water, but we're not on city water, and we're not, that whole thing. We're have solar power for the electricity. She has a decent solar system that provides the power for the water pump and all that stuff. So it's not like a major extra task, but it definitely, you have to be aware of your water level. Where when you're living in the city and you're hooked up to city water, it's like, hell, run it all day long. But but once you get the bill, you might be shocked. I mean, I know bills have gone up, in terms of the electric, water, gas, all that stuff. It's like people are like, it's a challenge, put it that way. I guess you just got to have balance with your finances to pull everything off.
Oh, absolutely. The place I was living before I bought the house up here, the guy had a koi pond and a
Oh wow.
bunch of gardening, bunch of plants, and he would always complain because every now and then he'd get a ding on the bill or a pipe would leak, and
Oh
up there off grid, if your pipe leaks or you run out of water, there's no, I'll pay the bill next month. We're out of water. There's nothing to drink.
yeah.
Uh, which is a whole different thing. And like you were saying, how, you're bringing your dad up and your mom and you're kind of going to take care of them. I think it's interesting in life. Our parents take care of us when we're kids. And when they get a little bit older and need some help, we go back and a lot of times we'll take care of them. And I think there's a really interesting cycle of life in general.
No, for sure. Yeah, I never, I didn't expect it, but it's just kind of one of those things where you just kind of do it because you see them like, struggling. Help me open this jar. It's like the basic stuff. That I mean, my cousin was fortunate to have, his mother made some good investments and stuff, so she was able to have us be in assisted living, and that was like $150 a day or something. It wasn't cheap to have accommodations in more or less like an old folks home, even a brand new facility, all that stuff with people to help you with your daily. But it's not cheap, to it's like when you get older, I guess that's what everyone saves for the future.
Yeah. I mean, save for the future. That's always good. And it's definitely good
Yeah,
to have enough to get the help you need
yeah, I
at any
know.
time, really. I mean, like right now, I mean, I still need some help, because I got my back issues as far as like doing some of the things I want around the house.
Yeah,
Sure, I could do it, but it would take a lot longer and I'd probably be suffering a lot higher level of pain more often
yeah,
if I push myself.
right.
And sometimes it's hard to ask for help,
No, for
like,
sure.
especially when you're growing up and, I know it was real hard for my mom to say, "Hey, son, can you come help me?" I just know her and her pride, per se. But I think everyone needs help every now and then, and there's nothing wrong with
Right. No,
reaching
for
out for
sure.
help, especially if you got something big or something major or something that's difficult. Whether it's in family or in business, everyone's got
No, for
their
sure.
strengths.
Yeah, recognizing that stuff, So yeah, it's interesting getting older, man. I mean, just like nowadays on Facebook, of course, it's all the flashbacks of the past. Looking at the 1980s and these different musical trends that we lived through, and now people are pulling out their old photo archives and sharing their life experience that they had when they were kids, essentially in their early 20s. If you were 25 years old in 1985, that was a rocking time. I think for all of us, speaking for myself, when our 20s was a pretty damn good time. Now we're 50 going, what the?
Oh yeah, we had the good life back in
Yeah,
the 90s. I guess we were in the 90s. We were
yeah,
20,
the
and
90s, man.
yeah. Cars were just getting computers in them and stuff. Most people still ran cars without the computer in it.
Exactly.
I know my first car didn't have a
Mine either.
computer.
I had a 67 Volkswagen van. Do you remember what your first car was?
Everybody ran Windows. Nobody ran Chrome OS or Android.
Yeah, it's like,
now,
what was that? There was
who
nothing.
doesn't
I
have
saw yesterday one of those.
or Apple
What's that?
Apple IO? Who doesn't have Android or Apple IO now?
It's either you're one or the other. That's the deal. That's pretty much what's up.
So funny. My girlfriend raises her hand. She's like, I still got Windows.
That's awesome.
Windows.
God. So, dude, it was like there was a little ice out there this morning. On the like when I went to open my container, my storage unit or whatever, it was like freaking ice on the handles, man. It was like cold. It's still a little a little frost like last night. And a little rain last night too.
You're way up in the mountains, though, right? How much elevation are you at right now?
Yeah.
7,000. That's up there. I checked. We're about 300 feet.
Really? For real? It's not 3,000?
Yeah, I mean we're inland, but we're basically at the on the valley in the whole big California Valley.
That's amazing.
That goes Bakersfield, Fresno, all the way up through Sacramento, all the way up north to Chico, and until you get to the mountains.
That's cool. Huh.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, we got 2 viewers, Jericho. We're hitting stride, and we haven't even gotten our Twitch viewer that we normally have. Maybe they found us on Facebook and quit going over to Twitch.
So Aaron and I are just reconnecting and chatting. This is our morning routine, 5 days a week. We're here. That's my grandpa Bill Logan behind us. He was a cartoonist. He was born in 1911, and his brother was actually born in like 1898 or 1897. I got to get my facts straight. But Elmer, their father, Bill's father, was a baker. So they had a bakery in Toledo, Ohio, and then the kids were just, of course, they are fascinated with the bakery and whatnot, but Elmer became fascinated with drawing, and I think he did one of those correspondence courses, probably via mail back in the day when he was a young kid, and he learned how to cartoon from the correspondence course, and then he just, I think, took himself to the local newspaper and got a job cartooning for the local newspaper. So he was on I would say, the first wave of cartoonists to do the comic strips for newspapers, and then they eventually transferred to comic books. But when Elmer predated the comic books. Essentially, he was doing comics before comic books. So that's like, wow, man.
So Elmer would be like who Stan Lee looked up to.
Yeah.
Stan Lee that does the superheroes.
Yeah, Stan Lee. Stan Lee was younger than Elmer. But so Stan Lee would have looked back and been inspired by my Uncle Elmer, and it's one of those facts I got to figure out. But Elmer did a comic strip called Skylark, and it was published through a few newspapers. And Skylark was one of the first aviation comic strips. And there's another guy along the same timeline. So who did it first? That's up for question, but I think I found a document. I found a 19.
I'm gonna say your grandpa did the first superhero. I mean, you posted online a Katie Keene to the moon, and she was like
Yeah.
this and flying. I think she might have been the very first superhero,
Yeah,
inspired
you
the
never
whole
know,
thing,
man.
the mother
I
of
mean,
all
you know, back in the
superheroes.
day, I should, I do love collecting and all that. And when I worked at the Humane Society thrift store, I pulled a few comic related things out of there. I got a little stack of comic books that people donated, but nothing super, super old. I mean, probably the oldest thing maybe was from the 1960s that I got. Um, but I am fascinated with all that old comic book stuff, and I probably should make an effort to go to the Comic Con in Denver because I'm 5 hours from Denver, and I know the Comic Con in San Diego is coming up. San Diego Comic Con, that's a big one. They probably have. I want to say they probably get over
No,
100,000 people per day attending. So it's huge. It's a big
wow,
deal.
wow. Now, Katie Keene was before Wonder
Yes,
Woman,
I
right?
believe. Well, we have to fact check that, but Katie Keene was 1945, and I don't know what year Wonder Woman started. That's a good thing to look up. But I do know the woman Trina Robbins. Rest in peace, Trina. She recently passed away, and she was the first woman to ink and do Wonder Woman for the comic books. But before she did it, it was all a men's. It was a men's job. The men did the work. A man, I think, conceptualized and created Wonder Woman. But later on, they needed to hire a new artist to do her, and they got Trina to do her for a little bit. So that was one of Trina's claims to fame, along with being in San Francisco when R. Crumb and the alternative comics of the 1960s started to happen. That was a really cool movement of 1960s counterculture happening, like the Haight Ashbury. There's a few people down there that were cartooning, and they really started to do some fun stuff because the timing of the music and the whole hippie movement, that was a classic time to be cartooning and pushing the envelope and pushing the edge out there beyond in almost like an X-rated realm, in some cases. So those guys had a good time. Alternative comics.
No, I remember some of those
Yeah,
Fat Freddy's
exactly.
cat, the Furry Freak Brothers. Um, my girlfriend just said that Wonder Woman was
Okay, wow, yeah, that's
1941.
cool. So Wonder Woman was before Katie Keene. That's cool. It's good to have that quick reference on the fact check stuff. Yeah, so 1941.
No, that's just
Yeah, that's helpful.
incredible that the legacy that you're documenting in hard copy is way back before there was, the popular comics. And I want to tell you, thank you, Jericho, for digitizing, because not everyone's going to be able to get to the magazines or get to the
Yeah,
archives. But I'm sure a lot of people appreciate seeing those slideshows that you put
yeah, for
out,
sure.
and I hope to see those keep coming because
Yeah,
that's
no,
just
thanks for
awesome.
sharing that one. It's like it's only been recently that that Katie Keene is actually. I think I may have done the well, but the first reel, essentially like a good reel with Katie Keene, that's new. And then a lady from Ireland, um, Jane Carroll was her name. She approached me and I talked to me about Katie Keene, and she did like a TED talk kind of a thing, like a classroom presentation on Katie Keene. So she was the first woman to really do a very intellectual, intelligent, incredible presentation about Katie Keene for YouTube. So it's just like very little. Thankfully, Robert Pollock does a great job of the Katie Keene fan club on Facebook. I'll invite you onto that one. There's only 400 members, right around 400 on the Katie Keene fan club, but it's cool. We've got strong, heartfelt people that are super passionate about Katie Keene, and they're all sharing, and that's a great thing. Just to share share the legacy, so to speak. So
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it doesn't seem like a big group, but it probably is, considering how, I don't know how long it is. But it's just so
Yeah,
awesome, you know.
no, for sure.
I'm just blown away with the more I look into what you're sharing, and the depth and the
Yeah.
history that you're grabbing onto. It's just like, wow, you know, because nowadays you can just, you know, learn a couple codes and use a machine, and, you know, use a few words and come up with an idea, where pen and paper aren't being used as much. I mean, you got, my girlfriend asked, she's like, well, how do kids sign their names these days? There's no handwriting. And I'm like, well, they use their thumbprint on
Oh,
the
wow.
machine. That's their signature now. And so
No,
the
I know.
times have
I'm curious
changed.
about that.
Jericho, I hate to say this, but we're
Yeah,
down to our
totally.
last few minutes. Let me get the sponsor in. Brought to you by the
Yeah, the
Wagon
Walden
Legacy.
Legacy. Thank you,
Support
sir.
Katie Keene by sending Jericho
Yeah,
some
some
sheets
plastic seat
of
protectors.
clear protective sheets. He
Yeah,
might send you a
exactly. Thanks,
tie.
bro. Appreciate that, man. Yeah, it's exciting. Um, I'm just looking forward to finally getting really into it with my buddy J-Bra to help me, you know, rock out 6 hours a day, man hours, to actually, you know, stuff those sheet covers with content and put them in the binders. And that way, when we at some point we have an appraiser or something like that, look at the collection, it'll be in a much more organized fashion. Because right now I'm looking at a wall of boxes, and I'd rather be looking at a wall of you know, bookshelves with binders. It just makes more sense.
Oh yeah. Don't forget pictures as you
Yeah,
can.
no, exactly. Because that if we lose, you know, somehow, heaven forbid, if it's lost, at least you got a digital, you know, image of it. You know, so proof of existence of sorts to a lot of the old work that's originals. There's a handful of originals, and um, then just all the correspondence letters and everything that he had from the past that he kept. My granddad, you know, kept his office. He never got. He didn't go out of business and just like or retire and let it go. He retired and kept all his paperwork essentially, and his own personal work, because I think he actually found himself going to comic conventions, and he started to collect his own work and buy back his own comics.
Oh
You
yeah,
know?
yeah. 'Cause I would imagine that you get to a point where you're just like producing and selling, and don't really think, oh, I better hold on to this one copy.
Yeah.
For 50 years later, my grandson might be very interested in what I was doing. I bet I should hold on to it. You don't think that when you're going through it.
No, you're just working and producing. And so now, you know, back then, I think at Earl Warren Showgrounds, remember Earl Warren in Santa Barbara?
Yep.
They used to have some conventions out there. They still do. But in terms of comics, back then, you know, there was a comic Andromeda bookshop. There was a few bookstores in Santa Barbara, and they would host, you know, little meet and greet, you know, signing with the author type of things. And my grandpa would make public appearances and sign comic books and stuff like that. So, and now just on eBay, you know, you look up Katie Keene on eBay. It's a mixed bag of originals, old comic books, some of his fine art, because it got out there to the collectors in the 1980s, let's say, and they're now, you know, up in age, and they're like, hey, let's sell this collectible, and eBay's the place. So you can find Katie Keene on eBay big time.
Oh wow. Okay. Okay. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and some of the stuff's newer because they had a 1980s like rehatch of her, but mostly the work that he created was from 1945 to like 1961. Around that time is when when TV came out, it really kicked the comic book industry down a notch, because kids like us, we were focused on Super Friends and Scooby Doo, the cartoons, you know, because television was our medium. But the kids that were before us, it was all about comic books. Print was their only fun. I mean, that was their great escape, was actually a comic book. So,
Yeah,
anyways,
that's and now what happened to the TV? It's all Netflix and YouTube.
yeah, it's switched again. It's taken another turn towards, and thankfully it's the individuals now that share it. So we'll close out the show. This is Coffee with the Summerland Kids. It's been great with you guys. It's Tuesday, May something, 2024. Rock and
I think
roll.
it's the 14th. No,
No,
it's
the
21st. Wait,
21st.
it's the 21st. I lost a week.
Yeah.
It says ta-ta for now.
Drink some more coffee. Thank you. Good night. Good day.